Well, it's Thursday, and you all know what that means. As you know already, New Japan has already begun the annual tournament known as the New Japan Cup. Now we're going to focus on day 2, so we'll see what happens. Now, we do have some preliminary matches involving the tournament, but we do have 2 matches involving, of course, in the first round matches of the New Japan Cup. And then we move on with Ring of Honor. As you all know, if you remember, if you can keep it up on our news updates, Ring of Honor are now in the new home in Jacksonville in a studio setting. So we're going to see how things roll up in the entirety of the event. And there's going to be some awesome matches you don't want to miss out on this review. And then, of course, we move on with TNA. All hell is about to break loose. Mike Santana had some things to say regarding of Steve Maclin for his actions last week. Jody Threat finally gets an opportunity for the knockout title against Ariana Grace, and plenty other things as well. And then, as always, we'll wrap up our episode as usual with some news updates to give you guys updates on what's been happening in the world of wrestling, such as what events the promotions are thrown out, who's booked, what matches are set, including developments that are happening in the world of wrestling as we speak. So, let's get ready for another episode of the Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Hey everyone, welcome to Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J-Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews from various promotions, not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK. Anywhere wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also, of course, do discussion videos, talk about various topics such as the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We also, of course, do more news updates. If certain information is unable to be on this episode, we can either put it on the next one or on a separate video by itself. We also, of course, do real-time news updates to keep you guys on alert if something has happened in the world of wrestling that needs to be addressed ASAP. We also, of course, got the Nike Sayaka watch and various other cool wrestling content as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us and click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews and other cool wrestling content as well. But if you like this episode, please give us a like on the like button or a nice comment in the description down below. Now, enough of the jibber jabbers. Let's get started. So, let's begin with day 2 of New Japan's New Japan Cup. Okay, day 2 of New Japan Cup by New Japan Pro Wrestling, as you all know. Now, to, of course, clarify what this tournament is for those who are new to the channel, let me give you guys straight up what this is. This is an annual tournament that happens every year, and this is an elimination tournament. Basically, once you are lost in this tournament, you are gone, and the next person, of course, the winner, advances to the next round. But if you ask yourselves, what do they get if they do win the tournament? Easy. A shot of the IWGP Heavyweight title, which currently is in the possession of Yota Tsuji, and that's how it rolls. And it takes a while to, of course, because they're taking the first round matches little by little. We are expecting to have one like this real soon with New Japan, with Stardom in a similar fashion. Hopefully I get to review that, but we'll get to that at some point. But we do have preliminary matches involving that. Now, our first match, we have Toru Yano, Aaron Wolf, Shota Umino, and Master Wato. Of course, they take on the House of Losers, Yoshinobu Kanemaru, Yujiro Takahashi, Chase Owens, and Doiki. Now, this is a bit of a preliminary between Doiki and Master Wato. As you know, Master Wato has been aiming for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title for quite some time, but now Doiki, as you know, has it in his possession, and he's been trying to avoid anybody who's willing to challenge him. Well, this time he cannot escape it because, unfortunately, Kanemaru ended up in the wrong side of the Vendaval, which is a submission move by Master Wato, and just like that, he tapped out. So if I'm Doki, I should be more concerned, knowing too well you could lose this belt one way or the other. Now, our next match, we still got more of the House of Losers, more specifically Dick Togo and Don Fale, taking on the guys of Unbound, consistent of Geto and Shingo Takagi. Now, Shingo Takagi, as many of you may not know, he received a bye in the tournament, and his opponent is none other than Don Fale, who, of course, thanks to the help of those losers, help him get rid of Aaron Wolf from advancing. Well, now this is going to be a very interesting. But, of course, we cannot count out, when it comes to the House of Losers, we know that they, in fact, like to use dirty tactics to win. Well, it did not do any well for him because, unfortunately, well, let's just say Dick Togo ended up on the wrong side of a submission by Shingo, and, of course, Fale was detained by Geto. So, that's how things end, by submission. So, if I was Fale, I'm sure I would be, of course, having a problem. And if I was Shingo, make sure you have your buddies, the Unbound company, by your side no matter what, because we know how these guys operate. Now, next up, we have the United Empire, consistent of Jacob Austin Young, Hinare, and Jake Lee, taking on Tatsuya Matsumoto and Bishiman, Yoshihashi, and Horigoto. But however, Jake Lee, as many of you may or may not know, has a match in the tournament against Yoshihashi. So you can consider this one also a preliminary match. But of course, as you know, the United Empire are going back to their Killer Instinct regime back when Will Ospreay first began, and that's exactly what they did. And it was Jacob Austin Young with the Imperial Prison onto Monotatsu, and just like Matsumoto, just like that, tapped out. And of course, Jake Lee in the post-match decided to send a direct message to Yoshihashi of what's going to happen when they see each other during the tournament. Now, speaking of the United Empire, well, we have Zane Jay and Cal Newman teaming up. But once again, Zane Jay being a little crybaby because they're playing the Young Lion theme song, even though he keeps saying he's not a young lion, despite he still is, regardless. But they face against the other members of the Unbound, Oscar and Drilla Maloney. Now, keep in mind, Cal Newman has a date with Destiny with Oscar at the tournament. And of course, you know, Cal Newman last time in day one decided to poke the bear on Oscar. But the real question is it going to happen again? Well, apparently this time, the so-called I'm not a young lion anymore, well, he ended up being in the wrong end of the double choke bomb by Oscar, sending a direct message to Cal Newman, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, Oscar pick up the win. So we'll see what happens when we get to their match. Now, our last one before we get there, we have TMDK, consistent, of course, of Harley Jackson, Rohei Oiwa, Kosa Fujita, Robbie Eagles, and Zack Sabre Jr. taking on the members of the Unbound Company, Daiki Nagai, Robbie X, Taiji Shimori, Yuto Ice, and Yota Tsuchi. Now, for those who may not know, Taiji Shimori and Robbie X have made claim that they are the next challengers for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team titles, are currently in the possession of Robbie Eagles and Kosa Fujita. But in the tournament, Rohei Oiwa has a date with Destiny with, of course, Yuto Ice. So you can tell there's a lot of factors being played out in this match. Now, in day one, TMDK actually did pick up the win. But the real question is, will they pick up the win, or will Unbound Company gets the win for this one for the momentum? Well, in the end, it was, in fact, of course, a submission by Zack Sabre Jr. onto Daiki Nagai, and just like that, Daiki Nagai had no choice but to tap. So we'll see what happens from then on. Now, our next two matches are the New Japan Cup, still with the first round, and we only have two matches on this one. We have El Fantasmo versus Boltin Oleg. I thought this match was incredible. I mean, these guys are part of Huntai, and they are not afraid to throw down. And I think many of us might have assumed that El Fantasma would have picked up the win, but no. Boltin Oleg applied an avalanche kamikaze on the second rope of the turnbuckle, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, done. Now, our next match, we have Taichi taking on Ren Narita. Now, of course, wherever Ren Narita, the so-called leader of the House of Losers, go, well, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that the House of Losers will be following along. Of course, they weren't going to show up. You know, we did see Dick Togo, and then we saw Huntai try to even the odds, but unfortunately we miscalculated when Kanemaru and that loudmouth punk, who was a disgrace of an idiot show, showed up and caused a problem. But Taichi held on as long as possible. Unfortunately, he ended up on the wrong side of the hellish guillotine by Ren Narita, and he just 1, 2, 3 over. The only thing I hope for is Ren Narita never wins the tournament. That's the one thing many New Japan fans, and of course, don't want to see. Certain people within New Japan don't want to see. In Darkness by the House of Losers. So that's pretty much what happened. So as of right now, we are done with New Japan. Let's move on with Ring of Honor. Okay, Ring of Honor. Now, if you guys have been keeping up in my news updates here on this channel, you know that I mentioned that ROH will be having a full-time home in Jacksonville in a studio setting. Well, just to let you guys know, this particular event that they had, of course, it features that. They're in their new setting. And that's where we begin now. Now, our first match, we have, of course, Sarah Leone versus Persephone. Now, this, as you know, is coming close enough until, of course, Persephone has her title match against Mercedes Moné in CML for the CML Women's World title. So you can guess that this is going to be a bit of a warm-up, and that's exactly what it was to her. She was able to take out Sarah Leone with the Razor's Edge, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, done. Now, our next match, we have Commander versus Sydney Akeem. Many of you may remember as Scripps or as Reggie in WWE. So you can tell this is what's going to be a spectacular match with a lot of high-flying spots left and right, from Akeem, from Commander. It doesn't matter. But in the end, of course, it was Commander who walked out with the victory when he applied the springboard running shooting star press, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, se terminó. Now, our next match, we have, of course, tag team action. Top Flight, Dantes and Darius Martin, members of Skyflight, they take on GYV. Now, of course, GYV, we know they are a tough tag team. They're always shown and demonstrated who they are, who are in fact are the bosses. That's exactly who they've been this entire time when we see. But however, we did see shenanigans coming from Isla Dawn when she attacked, of course, Zeta Steel. But Zeta Steel, of course, she's like, oh, hell no. She decided to give a piece of payback on that. But thanks to, of course, a combination attack onto Gibson by both Dante and Darius, it was Dante who picked up the win with the pinfall. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, Top Flight, as you know, picked up the win. And now the conversations are they could be potential tag team competitors for the Ring of Honor World Tag Team belts. But however, they're not the only ones. But their victory was cut short until a Big Bill and Brian Keith showed up, because it's a bit of a payback for what happened last week. But for many of you who don't know, now they're calling themselves Paid in Full. Now, this was a trademark that AEW has announced that there was mentioned recently that was filed. And now Brian Keith and Big Bill are now billed as Paid in Full. And their opponents are Darian Bankston and Karrion Gray. So obviously we can tell this match was going to be finished with Paid in Full winning the match, and that's exactly what happened. We did see a double big boot on, of course, on Darian Bankston by both Keith and Big Bill, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, Keith picked up the win. Now, our next match is a pure rules match. Josh Woods taking on Nathan Cruz. Now, this is, of course, one of those type matches where you do get 3 rope breaks and all that. But, however, Nathan Cruz only used 1, and Josh Woods never used any of them. But, of course, Cruz did have 2 left. But it was in the end with Josh Woods, who is very well experienced with the pure rules match, defeated Cruz with a submission, and just like that, Cruz tapped out. Now, we did see a interview with Lexi talking to Adam Priest and Tommy Billington. Now, of course, Priest, as you know, has some things to say about the Workhorsemen, saying that I learned a lot from you guys and all this other stuff. But however, Billington, as you know, has some unfinished business with Jay Lethal. If you guys remember, not too long ago, Jay Lethal was in league with Billington and Priest until he betrayed them to side with the Swirl. So you can tell that that's going to be their primary. Now, they did stated that once they deal with Lethal, they'll focus more on the tag team, because they're trying to say, look, we're not going to consider ourselves more of a tag team specialist type. We're going to focus also on singles competition, and that's exactly the direction they want to go. We have seen tag teams that do that. I mean, for example, the Lucha Brothers are amongst those teams that can do that, and I'm trying to remember who else, but that's pretty much it from that. Now, our next match, it features, of course, the Workhorsemen, Anthony Henry and JD Drake, taking on Adam Priest and Tommy Billington. Of course, this match was going to be a slobber knocker. I mean, they're going to be hard-hitting, blue-collar type style, beat down, that sort of thing. But in the end, it was Tommy Billington that was able to pick up the win when he pinned Anthony Henry with the bridge. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, just like that, it's over. Now, our next match, we have Mina Shirakawa taking on Zeta Steel. Of course, Mina Shirakawa is the most popular girl here in Ring of Honor and AEW combined. We always know that for a fact. And of course, she was going to pick up the win, like we probably expected. She defeated Zeta Steel with the figure 4 leg lock, and just like that, it was over. Now, we did see a backstage crew being called and summoned by Athena, but what we did not expect is that Athena and Billy Starks attacked Deonna Purrazzo. Obviously, if you guys remember, Athena felt disgusted. It makes her sick to her stomach that a title that should have been belonging to Billy Starks is in the hands of someone who she feels is just a side character. But of course, it was a direct message to Athena, to her student, of course, Maya World, which Maya World does get a proving ground match next week. So we'll see how things roll up from there. Now, we had the Bang Bang Gang, Ace Austin Gunn and Juice Robinson taking on MXM Collection, with no Johnny TV or what's her name, Taya Valkyrie being on the side. But I'm sure for many of you that don't know, Johnny TV, he just lost his hair in CML recently, so he is completely bald. Nothing compared like Wheeler Yuta bald, like the way he was embarrassed, but yes, he is bald. But the Bang Bang Gang, of course, are being looked at as also potential tag team competitors until, of course, Juice Robinson applied the Juices Loose onto Mansoor, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. Now, we did see a video promo coming from LFI's tag team champions, Sammy Guevara and Beast Mortos, and it seems now they're fully aware they'll be gunning left and right, and they're daring them to be part of it in an open challenge. But the real question is, who's going to respond to that? So we'll just have to wait and see. Now, our next match, we have Lacey Lane taking on Robin Renegade. We know Robin Renegade. We've seen her. She's been around since the Jacksonville days. And I thought it was a pretty good match. But in the end, it was, of course, a pinfall with a somewhat of a guillotine leg drop onto Robin. But it was Lacey Lane that picked up the win. 1, 2, 3, done. Now, we do have this thing called the 4-leaf clover 4-corner Survivors elimination. We have Shane Taylor versus Daddy Magic versus Lee Johnson versus R.A. Fox. Now, the first person eliminated was Daddy Magic by Shane Taylor, but Shane Taylor, no, Yeah, Shane Taylor was later eliminated by Fox, and Fox eliminates Lee Johnston when he applied the 450. However, the winner get a shot of a title. Now, it was like in a green box, kind of like a pot of gold type, But it turned out the title he chose that was chosen for him was the AEW International Championship, Kazuchika Okada. Now, of course, he had to face against Okada. The one thing that is concerned is AR Fox, who already wasted a lot of energy in his match, is facing the fresh Okada. That's always been a factor, but Okada was able to pick up the win when he applied, of course, the Rainmaker, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. So just like that, completely. I have to say I enjoyed this setting with the studio shoot with ROH. I'm happy. Let's see how things roll next week. But as of right now, we'll end things here and move on to our last and final review, and that is, of course, TNA. Okay, TNA. We opened up with the TNA Knockouts World title on the line. Ariana Grace defends it against Jody Threat. However, before the bell even rung, we were, of course, surprised by the presence of Tessa Blanchard and her entourage. Now, Tessa revealed that last week she was the one behind the attacks of Jody Threat. And of course, Tana Hanafi asked why. Why would she do something like this? She feels that, of course, Jody Threat cut in line. And of course, we did see throughout the match itself, Danny Luna showed up, who also has a right to the TNA Knockouts World title. And Tessa claims she's also a cheater who cutting in line as well. And of course, Li Yingling, of course, does have a consensual rematch clause. So basically, she could cash in whatever she wants. So Tessa, in her mind, she feels everybody should just be in the back of the line. But that's how it is. But what no one realized, while this match was happening, the Sharks were already surrounding around the ring. And that's exactly what's happened. But of course, during the match, that idiot Stax, Ariana's fiance, decided to get involved. But unfortunately, because of Danny Luna's injuries to the ribs, it caused her to lose the match by being rolled up by Ariana Grace. And just like that, 1, 2, 3 is over. Now, Carlos Silva, who decided to present the belt to Ariana Grace, well, Stax decided to be a jackass and tells him to go shove it because, he thinks that TNA is nothing more than a cancer. Well, we'll see what happens when he's knocked out. Now, Gia Miller conducts an interview with Nick Bennett. As you know, he pinned Leon Slater, so that gives him, of course, a right for a shot of the X Division title. Now, I wouldn't be surprised in some capacity if Nick Bennett was able to defeat Leon Slater for the title. He could cash in option C, which of course gives him the full blend ability to challenge for the TNA World title, which obviously he could do. But no, he did not. I don't think he has any intentions, but we'll see. Now, the Elegance brands made their presence known while the entire city of Atlanta, Georgia were booing them. They just revealed that Ash by Elegance was not present due to a bit of a mental breakdown or so, because people were calling her a mark. And then, of course, they decided to insult Mama June and her family, and not to mention Lillian Garcia. But however, OBD decided that enough is enough. It's time to have them to shut up. But she was able to beat the crap out of both Em and Heather, and then she kicked Mr. Elegance in the gonads, where let's be honest, he deserved it. And then, of course, OBD had some of her favorite food already splayed upon, both Heather and Em, acting like, a bunch of drama queens. So I thought it was really funny. But I'm sure Ash is going to be not happy with the results. But it's only a matter of time until Mickie James get her hands on Ash by Elegance, who decided to disrespect her. But we'll see what happens. Now, Leon Slater, as you know, was preparing for his match against Nick Bennett, but he was surprised to visit by his mentors and friends, the Hardys. As you know, he is well prepared for that. But of course, Leon Slater told him, well, I know you guys will be prepared watching who's going to win the #1 contender for the tag belts. But of course, they'll be ready, and we'll see what happens from there. Now, We move on, of course, to that TNA the TNA World Tag Team title #1 contenders match. We have, of course, the Righteous, Vincent and Dutch, the System, Brad Bronson and Brian Myers, Rich Swann and BDE, and of course Sinner Saint. So a lot of things were going to happen. I mean, four ways is very, very complicated, and of course it's chaotic because you don't know who's going to be legal to be pinned, and there's going to be a lot of people that try to stop each other from making the win. But unfortunately, Bear Bronson was the one who picked up the win by pinning BDE, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. Now, Moose was in the ring doing a promo alongside with Alicia. As you know, he still has unfinished business with the System, telling them that the System were all about family and watching each other's backs. But he feels that is not no longer the case, But now he feels that he has to dismantle it no matter what. And Alicia even said that she stands by Moose because if it wasn't for him for convincing her to sign with TNA again, she would not have been there. And of course, she still has some unfinished business to do so. But she even mentioned that she doesn't even recognize her own husband, Eddie Edwards, and the rest of the System for who they are. But we'll see where that goes from there too. Now, Rich Swann had a little nice pep talk with BDE. BDE feels, in a way that he felt disappointed for losing. But of course, Rich Swann said, look, you took it like a champ. You fought it through, despite that you didn't win. He tells him, look, we get knocked down, but we get back up because we know we can do it. Even Trey Miguel joined the little pep talk, telling him that, of course, that no matter what, look at me, I always broke down, but look where I'm at now. I'm the TNA International Champion. But of course, the little pep talk was interrupted by the Order of Four, of course, since their so-called leader, we don't know where he is, after he was put in a guitar case casket match, kind of ended things. But of course, the dumb hands decided to say that they should have been involved in that #1 contender. Well, too bad. And then, of course, Jada Stone got in face of Tasha Steelz, reminded her she was the one who beat her. But you know how that rolls up. We can tell that this is not over between both sides. Now, Elena Black takes on Mara Shade. Now, of course, Elena Black has her fair issues with Mara Shade, blaming her for not winning the Knockouts Rumble match that took place for a shot of the TNA Knockouts World title. But, of course, Elena Black decided to use the brass knucks, and she pinned him, and just like that, it was over. Now, AJ Francis decided to say some remarks about football teams and all that. He acts like he thinks he is above everyone. But of course, the hometown man was not going to stand that. And of course, it ended into a fight as we speak. Now, we did jump into the ring where we had the King's speech with that so-called king, or whatever he calls now, Frankie Kazarian, talking with Elijah about, of course, the match he had with the guitar case casket match. And of course, it's just so pre. But however, while the thing was going on, out of nowhere, we did see AJ France and Hometown Man, of course, taken out outside. They were still beating the crap out of each other, but of course, Francis applied the down payment on the outside of the ramp, and of course might have injured Hometown Man. But Elijah decided to check up on him, see how he was doing. Now, Eric Young attacked a cameraman. It seems that now he has a new target, and that target is Leon Slater. So he sent him a direct message. Now, I don't know exactly what he's planning, but yes. Now, we did see a bit of a vignette with Rosemary about some sort of a list or whatever, like demands, and she wanted to present it to Carlos Silva and have her sign it, that sort of thing. And of course, it did. And she calls it Project Lazarus. I don't know what that's about. But once she had that contract signed, there was like a sort of like a strange figure going around. Don't know exactly what that is, but can't be good. Now, our TNA X Division title, we have Nick Meneth versus Leon Slater. Of course, it was going to be a good match, but not to mention the X Factor is Ryan Meneth, who is there to see his big brother, of course, try to win this, try to get involved. But however, things didn't go according to plan, because in the end, Leon Slater once again applied the Swanton 450. But unfortunately for Slater, he was blinded attack by Eric Young, and then took him outside the ring and Spike power drive them outside. Of course, he sent his message loud and clear. Now, before the end of the night, we did see Mike Santana, of course, talking about Steve Maclin. But the one thing he addressed is what he did with his actions, attacking someone who was his closest friend, Tom Hannafy. Now, of course, he does acknowledge that Tom Hannafy always had his back, always spoke highly of him, but he wanted Tom Hannafy to know one thing, that he's not going to tolerate what he did to him, and not to mention that as much as you care for him, he needs to be straightened out and taught a lesson. And of course, that's exactly what it is. Tom Hannafy may not like the idea of Mike Santana beating the crap out of Steve Maclin, but he may have no other choice but to see that someone needs to straighten out. So he demanded for, of course, for TNA to reinstate Steve Maclin, to give him an ass beating, and of course to have a match against him. And then Daria Ray announced that, of course, Steve Maclin is reinstated, but the match between them is under her rule, no one else's, until, of course, Santino Marella decided that it's already been decided that Santana and Maclin will have their match at Sacrifice on March 27th. You can tell by the look of Daria was not happy with the idea that this was happening. And just like that, Santana was really happy with the idea, but he told him before then there's going to be some ass whooping. Now, of course, the commentators, both Renwald and Tom Hannafy, looked a bit dismayed about this decision, but it is what it is. But we'll see what happens when we get there. So we are done for now. Let's end this entire episode with some news updates. Okay, so welcome to our news update. So let's begin with upcoming events, starting with GCW. Now, as you know, we have this coming Fridays. They say it couldn't be done. In Louisville. They just announced that the GCW tag team belts, YDNP, consistent of Jordan Oliver and Alec Price, will defend them against Teriyaki, which is Teriyaki and Bobby Flyco. And then, of course, as you know, we have the one night only that will happen on May 2nd, which is back at the ECW Arena. They announced names that will be participating. We have Nick Gage, Atticus Cogar, Bear Bronson, Joey Janela, Busta, and Brain, Effie. Now, there will be more names mentioning, so we'll get to that. House of Glory for the Super Splash that will happen on the 21st of March. They just announced Mina Shirakawa will be participating. And then finally, as you know, Dragon Gate will be participating in Las Vegas during WrestleMania week on April 15th. The event's called the Gate of Sin City. And 4 names have been announced who will be participating. We have La Estrella, Willie Mack, El Cucuy, and Ry Maddox. So that's pretty much it for our upcoming events. Now to some developments here. Now, many of you may have heard the very surprising news. Road Dogg Jesse James, as you may know him back in the day when he was rolling around with Jeff Jarrett and member of DX, and TNA known as a 3 or 4 Live Crew, has departed from WWE. It's still unclear what really happened or what was the main reasons why he decided to leave. Hopefully we'll get that answer. MLW has announced that, of course, LaBron Kozone, many of you who know him from the Independents, signed a multi-year contract with them, so we'll be seeing him more often there. Now, I don't like to bring politics in pro wrestling because I know people don't like it, but many of you may or may not have heard this was mentioned a few times. Robert Kennedy Jr., it was foretold that WWE officially signed his niece, Zoe Hine, who is a college softball player or something like that, has signed with the company. Now, I know that, people would say we should just leave the politics out of there. Hopefully so, but, we'll see where that goes. Hopefully there's more information regarding about that. Now, many of you may have heard about what happened with David Finlay. We did see him appear this past Wednesday on, of course, Dynamite. But the real question is, some people will say, why? Now, this was something that was mentioned by Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer. And this is what he had to say. The deal with Finlay was he's been talking to TNA, he's been talking to AEW, he's been talking to WWE. AEW made the best offer out of the three, and that's your answer. The story going around WWE, they did not make him a good offer. As soon as I think they knew that he wasn't coming, it started with this, that, oh, we didn't really want him stuff. We wanted him in NXT. We didn't want to offer him anything. And even be true, but just the interesting how the timing was, but all three groups were interested. AW was the most interested, and that's where he went. So yeah, I mean, whatever offer AW had to give him, he took it. I know that maybe Dave Finlay must have thought that he was going to go to the main roster. I know some people are saying, why do guys like him have to go to the main roster? I mean, we have seen wrestlers, who either went to the NXT or went to, of course, the main roster. We did see Ethan Page in NXT. We did see, of course, Blake Monroe and Ricky Saints. But some people know that Rey Fenix and Penta did not go to NXT. That's one of the things we do know, but hopefully more answer was happening. Now, many of you remember recently, apparently, Mance Warner and his wife, Steph de Landers, quit TNA. Apparently, much of the answer has been said. Apparently, this is what was being told. This is coming from Fightful. They said that, according to reports, this stems from TNA refusal to clear Steph de Landers to return to the ring from the injury. She originally told that she would never be able to wrestle in TNA, but she decided to go to WWE's spinal surgeon for clearance. She claims on the social media that she is cleared to wrestle. So that's what really happened. So that's what was going on. And of course, Steph de Landers mentioned on her social media that she had to pay for everything. This is something that has been mentioned before. She paid for her surgery, paid for everything, and now they're saying she cannot be cleared. Now it's still unclear where she's going to go, but hopefully soon enough. We even have information about Rush here. Apparently they're saying that Rush will be making his return soon. This is what Brian Alvarez was mentioning. Apparently rehab went well, as returning last night told people that the knee felt great. So looks like he is returning. So that's pretty much what's going on, and of course, in the world of pro wrestling. So I think that's pretty much it. So let's call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up, I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do, but I am fully aware that Stardom has begun their annual elimination tournament, which is the Cinderella tournament. Now, I'm not sure if I'll be able to watch it, but we'll see. And I'm definitely going to try to catch up with some of the other wrestling shows I had missed out a while, which is mostly coming from Japan, but we'll see what happens. But for now, we'll leave things as it is, and we'll see how it goes. But until then, I will see you guys in the next DWZ time, same DWZ channel. I'm as bid of you adieu. So, goodbye, and have a nice day. Bang.